I feel like no one talks about the emotional side of decluttering. By that, I mean, spending time looking at stuff and things, memorabilia, pictures, vases, teacups that your mom, your grandmother, anybody like passed down to you. Each of those has an emotional tie, and downsizing those or decluttering those can really take a toll on you emotionally if you're not prepared. When I started letting things go, it was after my mom passed away and before I moved into a new house, and honestly, before I retired. It took me a good month to get my head around it. So a month for me kind of preparing to get my head around what did it mean to declutter and how was I going to do it and how was I going to process. Now you have to remember I have 6 kids. So I was not only decluttering for me, but I was also decluttering for the 6 kids while they weren't there. In fact, my youngest, Jordan, was in Barcelona on her study abroad while I was taking pictures, photographs of blue jean shorts, and God only knew she had like 10 or 15 pairs of blue jean shorts. And I'm like, you can't take all these with you. We need to start to declutter. So decluttering for yourself is different than decluttering for others, but all of it comes with emotional toll. And I want to get into some points that we can talk about that might help you with this. Some different perspectives that may help you as you look to declutter your space. I have a cousin right now who's in a really difficult time in her life with 3 young children. She just had surgery. She's an emergency room nurse that really catered to everybody through COVID and really did God's work. Had an injury, a lot of things happening all at one time. And I said to her, what would make you feel accomplished? And she said, if I didn't have to look at this crap all day long every day because she's home recovering from surgery. And that brings me to the first point here, because clutter is really a tax you pay every day, visually and emotionally. Clutter, every item that is extra steals time, energy, and brain power from you if it's truly something that you don't need. She and I worked on a project in her house. We gave her some real goals. We started small, but gave her some real goals. And she's not retired, but she's home like a retiree. She's home like you and I. So your space when you're home, and you're home a lot, gets a little bit smaller, and the clutter seems to magnify. Retirement is supposed to give you time back, not bury you in bins and in clutter. So what I would say on that first point, that clutter is a tax that you pay every day, is if it doesn't serve your life today and it's not going to serve you in the future, it's time to let it go. Now, there's a free download below. If you want structure, there is a decluttering guide that is listed below. I suggest you download it and take a look at it, and maybe that'll help. Let's get to the second point. Memorabilia is not memory. And believe me, I was a college athlete. I used to still have all of my awards. I had my jackets, I had my pins, I had my trophies, I had my old lacrosse sticks. And while they were amazing memorabilia for me, they weren't really the memories. The memories were the people, the games, the experiences, the highs, the lows, the work and the work ethic that it took for me to be a college athlete. So I was able to get rid of the clutter, but I was able to keep the memories. Now, it's a little bit harder if you're like me and you're a mom or you're a person in the world that's going to be doing this for other people. It's hard to make those decisions for other people on their memorabilia. And we had that with each one of our kids. Our youngest of our boys is an amazing golfer and went to school on golf scholarship. And we have more golf trophies and golf balls and pencils and scorecards than we know what to do with. But there comes a time when they need to leave our house and get rid of our clutter. And he and his spouse need to determine whether it's something they want in their house. And that might seem a little bit harsh. And I apologize, but I have a cold, so I'm really trying to get through this without coughing. But that might seem a little bit harsh, but it's not. It's their memory and memorabilia that is becoming your clutter. You got to find a way to get rid of that. The next one, Selling your clutter will likely disappoint you. And why is that? The sunk cost that you have in stuff and things is something that you'll always remember. I bought that chair for $500. Someone just offered me $50. I'm not going to sell it. It's a $500 chair. Because you have this impactual relationship between what your financial investment was in stuff and things and what the real market value is potentially for the stuff and things, the disconnect is going to just disappoint you over and over and over again, unless you have something that has ascending valuation, which if you have that, you might want to keep it. If you have the Ming vase that someone handed down to you year after year after year, you might want to keep it, or the painting, or, the jewelry. But if you just have the stuff and things that really is cluttering your space, cluttering your view, cluttering your mind, stealing your time, and disassociating with true value, selling it is going to be really hard. So I would set a rule. I would list your clutter, your items, once. List them once, give it 2 weeks to sell at the price you're willing to sell it. If it doesn't sell, it's time to donate or discard. Because this idea, and I have friends that do this on Facebook Marketplace and all the various different Craigslist and all the various different sites, they will put it up and they'll start it. Let's say I have a $500 chair. I'm going to sell it for $300. And then they'll put it at $275 and then at $250. And they're, again, this piece of clutter that they no longer need, that they're no longer using, that's no longer really part of their world or their future. This piece of clutter is taking up so much time and energy and space. Now, I'm not saying just to throw things out that have value. I would never say that. I'm a big fan of donating. If you've tried to sell this item for 1 week or for 2 weeks at one price and it doesn't sell, consider all the people who could use it. Consider donating the item either to a charity or to a family or to someone that you know that's in need. The next thing, and I've talked a little bit about this, and it's a dicey railroad track that I run with our kids, but our home cannot hold everything of everyone else's and all their legacy. And, 3 of our children, our oldest 3, all have homes. The oldest of our daughters just bought a home. The other 2 are still renting. They're still young, so they're still renting, and they don't have a lot of space, and I get that. But those with homes, if I have your stuff, it's going to be your stuff now. If you have the space to grab this and make the decisions on the decluttering by yourself, because it is your memorabilia, it is your stuff and things, it's time for you to do that. I think where it becomes hard, when my mom passed, my pop brought me in, and my mom had a bunch of clothes, and she had a bunch of, jewelry, not a lot. She had, a couple sets of china, the crystal, the silver that was her grandmother's perhaps. And he brought me in to make the decisions with him about her stuff that was in his house now, right? So we had a lot of long, very emotional conversations about her things. I knew things that really meant a lot to her. Specifically, oddly enough, in each one of her china sets, she loved the teacup. In her mind, that was the best way to determine if it was a good set of china or not a good set of china. It all came down to the teacup. And so what I did was I grabbed the teacups and we donated the china. We tried to sell it. We couldn't sell it. We donated the china. And I gave each one of the teacups to each one of my daughters or daughter-in-laws so that they had a piece of my mom, because that was her thing. She loved to drink coffee out of a hot porcelain teacup. So it's a nice little reminder for them. So you might say to yourself, am I just passing off stuff and things to other people? Only if it has a direct tie to their heart where I knew that they would welcome the gift. Legacy is the story that you live now, not the story that comes tied to items or stuff and things. And I think that's a really important part, a really important thing to keep front of mind while you're going through the decluttering process. The next point is, decluttering is a practice. So you might say to yourself, nope, I'm a one and done person. And Mark and I go back and forth on this. Mark can touch the same pile of stuff 2 and 3 times. I can maybe touch it twice, but I usually make a decision on the first touch. So I usually try to do this. I give it a simple cadence. 15 minutes a day, I'll pick a room, I'll pick a drawer, I'll pick a closet, I'll pick a bathroom under the sink, and I'll say that's going to be my project for the day, and I'm going to give it 15 minutes. And if there are items in that bathroom, that closet, that drawer that I can't decide in 15 minutes, I leave it to the side and I will go back one more time and make a decision on that. Where do I find that happens to me most? I would tell you, when I left my job, when I left my corporate career after 35 years, I probably had 9 pairs of black slacks, not associated with suits, literally just black slacks. I don't know what it was with me and black slacks, but I had the hardest time discerning which ones I wanted to keep and which ones I needed to get rid of. Now that I'm in retirement, I don't really need that type of clothes. So I did the 9, I got them down to 6, and then I left it. I got the 6, I got it down to 3, and I thought 3 is probably a good number. So take it at a pace and a cadence that you can handle. Now, was I emotionally tied to my black slacks? No, I was not. What I am emotionally tied to is not wasting money and buying the same pair of black slacks because I might need it for an event, I might need it for a dinner, I might need it for a speaking engagement. I don't ever want to have that remorse where I go back and say, geez, I wish I had those high-waisted, wide leg black slacks that look really great with pointy-toed shoes. So you want to make sure that you do 15 minutes a day, touch things once, maybe touch them a second time, and really challenge yourself. It's hard and it's emotionally taxing. When it's your stuff, you need to own your decisions. When it's other people's things, your children's, your parents, your aunts, uncles, your husbands, when it's other people's things, you need to bring them in if they're still around and alive and available, and ask them really what they want to do. Because remember, memorabilia does not equal memory. Let's get to some questions that we have. Our team put together some questions. The first one is, hi Jody, I'm 66 and my name is Susan. What do you do about adult kids who won't pick up their boxes even though you have them all packed, they know they're there and they're ready to go? Susan, this is going to sound harsh, but what Mark and I did was we shipped them. We actually spent the money and we shipped the boxes that the kids would not address. Not to be spiteful, not to be sassy, not to get on their spouse or partner's nerves. But if we've had the conversation over and over and they kept talking about coming to get them and they didn't, we either dropped them off or, in our case, a lot of our kids don't live near us, we shipped them. So that would be my answer there. Hi, Jody, I'm Linda. I'm 63 and selling is taking forever. Trying to sell a few items. When do you stop trying and just move on? Well, I said in this video, I would say you put something up for a week, maybe 2 weeks at one price, and don't let it consume too much of your headspace. If you get somebody bantering back and forth and you're at 300 and they're at 250 and you want to settle on 275, sure. But if you're at 300 and they're at $50, you're not in the same ballpark. At some point, that value, that concern that you have on the value of an item will hurt you more than just letting the item go. Hi, Jody. This is Barbara. My spouse is attached to absolutely everything. How do you declutter when one person won't budge? That's a really tough one. Mark actually has his Boy Scout uniform from when he was a Boy Scout, and he's 68 years old. He has snowshoes that we've never used. He's got golf clubs. I don't even know what kind of golf clubs they are. He certainly has trophies and things like that. I think it's important to really sit down and talk about what in that item is meaningful. And if your spouse or partner or the person you're trying to declutter for goes to the memory, use that tagline. The memorabilia is not the memory. The memory will continue to stay with you. There are things that people get attached to that they just can't let go of, and I think you do have to give some grace on that. But for the most part, when you declutter, you can definitely declutter for each other. You can declutter for yourself. And then you can have the compassionate conversation about things that matter and things that don't. If you like this, take a look at this next video, our latest downsizing attempt that forced us to make difficult decisions. Forced us to make difficult decisions. That was both Mark and I. Watch this one next.